Hey friends, we are back to go over pricing today. As again, a little later in the day than I was hoping, but super excited to kind of walk through how I do my pricing on my crochet pieces. This is always a hot topic in all the groups. If you get into any craft group, you will see somebody post a picture and go, "What would you price this at?" And there are so many variables in that it is very difficult to give a straight answer. Some people will go by a penny per stitch plus cost of materials. Some people will use just random numbers. I have a very calculated spreadsheet that my husband made. He is an engineer and wonderful with all the spreadsheets, and he is very good at all of that stuff. So I told him some ideas and he put it together. So I have multiple pages in my spreadsheet. I have a page that has all the yarns that I use for the colors and the prices. We use the suggested retail price or the general retail price. We do not calculate off of sales because if I do a custom or something comes up, I cannot guarantee that I am buying it at the sale price. So we always go off of the regular price for those items. Then I have a page of all of the products that I make, and I use a SKU system, so that lists all of my numbers with the SKUs for that. Then I have a page of extra accessories. So the eyeballs, how much do these eyes cost for this size, etc. And all of that then pulls into my main page where we then use drop-down menus to pick the yarn that we are using and then also those different accessories. So say I'm making a large sea turtle and it takes Big Posh. I measure the skeins of yarn before I start, and then I measure the skeins of yarn after I finish, and that difference is the yarn that I've used. So I maybe used 100 grams of Big Twist Posh, and I will use the drop-down menu, select Big Twist. I then enter my 100 grams. It spits out how much the cost is for the yarn for that quantity. Then I use the polyfill. So knowing how much I used on yarn, I then take that from the gross weight of the animal and it tells me how much polyfill is in there. So then I've got those calculations for the polyfill as well. And I will be putting in then those numbers for the polyfill. And then I select my eyes, whether it's to 12 millimeters to 16 millimeters, put those in, and it then calculates out a price for the product itself. I then also add in vendor fees, as 99.9% of my sales come from vendor shows. So I take the last year's worth of vendor fees and average it out to see how much I pay on average per event. Then I also have how many items I typically sell at an event. So I did throw out a skunk event, as it was just a skunk. And I then figured out how many items on average I sell per event. So then the cost of the vendor fee is divided between that many numbers, and that is then added into the cost of the product. I also have then a hourly wage. So whether it's myself making it or my daughters, we each have our own hourly wage. I crochet about twice as fast as my teenager, so her hourly wage is not as much as mine is. We then figure out our length of time that we are crocheting that. So there's a timer running on those animals as we do it. So we don't typically do it the first time so that we can figure out the pattern. But on the second or third go on that creature, we will run a timer to see, how efficient this make is and what kind of time is needed for this. On a side note, I have a cute little gimbal, I think it's called, that now tracks my face as I move and talk. And so if you see a little differentiation in the camera and the angle here, you will see that it is tracking me, and it is very cool. So techie. I'm proud of myself. So, but we do put in that hourly wage then, and that then adds up and figures out our total. It lists the taxes out for me. I have the taxes for the county I typically sell in, the county I do most of my shows in. And if for some reason the taxes are slightly different, certainly my Shopify store calculates that with each sale, but it gives me an idea of where things are at. And then if I feel that an item was extra intricate or should be a little bit higher as far as the price, maybe I can make 2 sizes of sea turtles at a very similar rate, and there's not a whole bunch of cost of materials. I do still want to make sure that those 2 prices have set points. So I will then have the opportunity to increase the profit margin by putting in a little extra in there. So I can bump it up, say 5%, and see where that does it. And so all these things autofill for me while I'm playing with those numbers. So I can then print off that sheet. It gives me a breakdown of everything. And then I also know that if I'm paying my daughters, I know what they make off of each of those items that they are creating, and I can then pay them after the craft show. So it really helps to keep things organized for me. I know that there are a number of pricing calculators out there and various spreadsheets, but if this is something that is more detailed or more efficient for what you're looking for, I can definitely see if there's a way that we can create the blank copies for people to buy as well. Certainly that would be something I'd have to ask my husband and figure out his hourly wage. I don't think I can afford him. But if that's something you're interested in, definitely reach out. Certainly these different prices of yarns and the availability of various materials differ throughout the country. So you would have to do a little bit of digging on your own to put in those values. But it is so nice to have everything there, and once it's entered, not really have to think about it again. So hopefully this helped you think about some things with pricing. There's a lot to consider as you do these pricing, and certainly not everybody is willing to pay the prices that I put on my products. Most of my things are $40 and under. I think I've only had maybe one item that has gone over $40 just because of the time it took, the number of pieces that were involved, and putting them all together. So I do feel that I'm very reasonable and affordable. Certainly I know other creators, as I watch their channels, have much higher priced creatures. So that is certainly a personal preference. But hopefully this has given you some ideas going forward on what you might want to do. Certainly leave a question in the comments if you've made it this far. Put a little money emoji at the bottom, because that's what this is all about, making money while we're doing this. Certainly I love for it to pay for my hobby, and getting a little extra bonus on top of that is just the icing on the cake. So you guys have a great day, and we will chat later. Take care.